Beloved soul, lean closer, for the words I bring to you are not ordinary words, but whispers from eternity, carried on the wings of light to reach you in this very moment. You may have looked at your life and thought that chance has scattered your steps, that coincidence has painted random patterns across your days. But I tell you with holy certainty, there is no coincidence in your story. What you have called chance is nothing less than the quiet choreography of heaven, weaving threads so fine and delicate that only in reflection do they reveal the masterpiece God has been creating within and around you. You have stood at the crossroads bewildered, asking, why here? Why now? Why this? And heaven has heard your trembling questions. Yet the truth is that none of it has been accidental. Every encounter, every delay, every closed door and sudden opening was drawn by the divine hand of the one who knows the end from the beginning. This is not coincidence, child, it is God's plan. Think of the moments when your heart longed for something so deeply, only for it to slip from your grasp. You thought you had failed, you thought you had been denied. But in truth you were being guided away from lesser paths toward the one your spirit was truly meant to walk. You thought you missed your chance, but heaven was whispering, not this way. Beloved, not this time. I have something greater for you. Even your tears, which you believed were wasted on nights of silence and sorrow, have watered the ground of your destiny. The soil of your life is softer now, ready for seeds that only bloom in the hearts of those who have wept and endured. Nothing has been wasted, not a single step, not a single sigh. The patterns you called coincidence are divine fingerprints, God's proof that His hand is upon you. Remember the unexpected meetings, those people who entered your life just when you needed them most, though you did not call them, though you did not search for them. That was not chance. That was heaven arranging connections, weaving lives together in ways unseen. Some stayed for a season, some for a lifetime, and some only for a fleeting moment, but each bore a purpose. Even the ones who hurt you, even the ones who hurt you, even the ones who walked away, they played their part in the sacred design. For through them you learned resilience, you learned forgiveness, you learned what love truly is and what it is not. You thought they came by accident, but they were instruments in the symphony of your becoming. You thought you lost, but you gained wisdom and strength no storm can take away from you. Do not call it coincidence, child. Call it the unfolding of God's plan. You have seen delays stretch so long you thought heaven had forgotten you. But delays are not denials. The pauses, the waiting seasons, are the fertile ground in which endurance grows, and endurance gives birth to faith that cannot be shaken. Faith is not forged, that cannot be shaken in ease but in the fire of waiting when nothing makes sense. That moment you thought was wasted, when the clock seemed to move slower than your heartbeat. That was the very moment heaven was aligning doors that only open in the fullness of time. What you call coincidence, what you call delay, is the precision of God's plan unfolding in rhythm with eternity's clock, which never ticks too early and never too late. Child of eternity, there have been storms you could not explain, storms that broke your plans and stripped away your strength. You cried out, "Why now? Why me? Why me?" And though the winds roared too loud for you to hear, heaven's answer was this: because storms uproot what cannot remain, so that you may be planted in soil where your roots can grow unshakable. What you thought was destruction was divine clearing, making room for what was destined to flourish in you. You looked at the pieces scattered across the ground and saw loss. But we saw preparation. A house must sometimes be torn down to rebuild it stronger. A vessel must sometimes be broken to be remade pure. Do not call it coincidence when storms redirect you, for even the winds obey the voice of your Creator. It was not chaos, it was God's plan. Do you remember the prayers you whispered when you were alone, the words no one else heard? We carried them to heaven. None have been forgotten. The answers did not always come as you expected. Sometimes they came through people you did not imagine, sometimes through closed doors that pushed you elsewhere, sometimes through strength you discovered in yourself when no answer seemed to appear at all. But every prayer has echoed in heaven, every sigh has been recorded, and the answers have always been woven into your path, though disguised as coincidences. The stranger who encouraged you, the opportunity that appeared just when you were about to give up, the dream that returned to your heart after lying dormant, all of these were answers though you did not recognize them at first. This is not randomness, beloved, this is God's plan, manifesting in ways your mind cannot yet fully grasp. You may wonder why pain had to be part of this plan, why heartbreak, why betrayal, why loss. Child, hear me gently, even pain carries purpose. The cracks in your heart became entryways for heaven's light. The wounds you carry are the very places where compassion was born in you. The suffering you endured has given you a depth of love and understanding that cannot be taught in comfort. You have been shaped by fire, and because of it, your soul shines brighter than before. This too was no accident. The plan of God does not waste your wounds, it transforms them into strength, into testimony, into healing not just for you but for others who will one day find solace in your story. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being remade into something greater than you were before. Every time you thought you wandered off the path, heaven was still guiding you. Even in your mistakes, even in your rebellion, God's plan did not abandon you. You thought you derailed your destiny, but in truth, detours became lessons, and lessons became stepping stones. Grace is wide enough to encompass even your wrong turns. You cannot fall beyond the reach of the plan that was written for you before you drew your first breath. The map of your life includes valleys and mountains, deserts and rivers. But every path, no matter how winding, leads you back to the place God has prepared for you. Do not despise your detours, they too were foreseen, and they too are redeemed. You may have called it accident, but heaven calls it alignment. Beloved one, have you noticed how sometimes your heart stirs without reason? A sudden thought, a sudden pull, an inner knowing that tells you where to go or whom to trust. Those are not coincidences. That is the Spirit whispering, that is heaven nudging your steps. You are never left alone to guess your way through darkness. Light is always being sent, in signs, in dreams, in feelings that seem to rise from nowhere. Pay attention, child. The more you trust those whispers, the more clearly you will see that your path has always been directed. What looks like luck to others is divine orchestration in your life. You are being led by a hand unseen but deeply felt. This is not chance, it is God's plan guiding you, moment by moment. Even now, as you read these words, you may think, but this message is too exact, too timely, too personal. That is because it is not coincidence that you are here. Heaven chose this moment to place these words before your eyes. The timing, the alignment, the resonance in your spirit, none of it is random. The plan of God is intersecting with your awareness right now, reminding you that you are known, seen, and deeply loved. We angels were sent to carry this message because heaven wanted you to know that you have not been forgotten, that the silence has not been neglect, that the delays are not rejection. The plan is alive, and you are walking in it even when you do not understand it. You may feel that your life has been a mixture of wandering and waiting, with questions unanswered and promises unfulfilled. Yet in every step the unseen hand has been guiding you. Even in the silence, there has been orchestration. Even in the waiting, there has been preparation. Even in the moments you thought you were lost, heaven was carefully writing your story. You are never truly lost when the one who holds eternity in his palm is guiding your steps. You are not forgotten when the one who knows every star by name knows yours as well. Every detail of your journey has meaning, even the moments you wish you could erase. What seems like detours are often divine routes. What seems like detours are often divine routes. What seems like delays are often holy pauses designed to prepare you for what is greater than you imagined. Child, lift your eyes and see that the path ahead of you is already marked with light. You may not see the full map, but the next step is always revealed in time. Trust this. The same hand that brought you this far will not leave you now. The same grace that carried you through yesterday's storms will sustain you in tomorrow's trials. The same love that has whispered in your spirit since the beginning will continue to whisper until the end. You are not wandering alone, you are being carried. What you call coincidence is divine consistency. A love that never fails to keep its promises. You are walking in a story authored by God Himself, and no force in heaven or on earth can rewrite what He has written for you. Do not fear. What is meant for you cannot be stolen. What is ordained for you cannot be destroyed. What is planted in you will bear fruit in its season. This is not chance. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. It is, and always has been, God's plan. Think of the times when you were spared from dangers you never even noticed. Think of the times when you were spared from dangers you never even noticed. Doors that opened for you at just the right moment and the ones that closed though you wept over them. Later, you realized they were not meant to be yours. These were not random events. They were divine hands arranging the path ahead. You were led out of situations that would have harmed you, even when your heart begged to stay. You were placed in the presence of people who awakened your spirit, even when you did not know why you crossed paths. You were pulled away from places that could not hold your calling, and though the leaving was painful, it made room for what was destined to arrive. None of it was meaningless. None of it was chance. All of it was the weaving of heaven into your human days. There are moments when you feel an ache in your chest, an unexplainable longing that seems to rise from deep within. Do not ignore it. That is your spirit remembering where it comes from. That is your heart recognizing that it was made for more than what the world can offer. It is the gentle reminder that you are not of this world only but of the eternal, and that your days are not merely passing hours but steps in a sacred journey. That longing is not emptiness, it is heaven's call, reminding you that you are being drawn closer to your true home, closer to your true purpose, closer to the one who formed you. Rest, beloved, in the assurance that nothing is wasted. The tears you cried in secret have watered the seeds of your destiny. The prayers you thought fell into silence were collected by heaven and answered in ways unseen. The battles you fought alone were never truly fought alone, for angels stood beside you when you felt most abandoned. The strength you carry today was not born of easy days, but of nights when you nearly gave up. Yet grace held you. The wisdom you hold now was not learned in comfort but carved through trials. Every scar is a testimony of survival. Every storm has written resilience into your soul. You are not fragile, you are forged. You are not forgotten, you are favored. And nothing that has happened to you will prevent what is promised to you. When you doubt, remember this: your story is still unfolding. The author has not finished his writing. What looks broken to you is still in the process of being made whole. What feels delayed is still on the way. What seems like silence is still filled with divine activity. Just because you cannot see the movement does not mean there is none. A seed hidden in the soil appears lifeless, but beneath the surface roots are forming. The same is true for you. In the hidden places of your life, foundations are being built that will hold the weight of your calling. You may not yet see the fruit, but the root is already alive, and in due season what has been planted will rise, and in due season, what has been planted will rise. So trust when the path bends, trust when the night stretches long, trust when the miracle feels delayed. Trust when you feel small, and the world feels overwhelming. Trust not because everything makes sense, but because the one leading you sees what you cannot. Trust, because he has never failed you, even when you misunderstood his ways. Trust because every whisper, every nudge, every stirring in your heart is the voice of heaven guiding you. Trust because your life is not a scattered puzzle, but a divine mosaic. And though you see only pieces, the whole picture is already known to God. There will come a day when you will look back and understand. You will see that what felt like empty waiting was holy preparation. You will realize that what seemed like brokenness was the very thing that shaped your strength. You will understand that the people who left were part of making room for the people who were meant to stay. You will see that the dreams that fell apart were replaced by dreams that could not fail. You will smile, maybe through tears, and say, "It was never coincidence, it was always God." And in that moment every unanswered question will find its rest, every aching longing will be filled, and every fear will dissolve in the light of His perfect love. Until then, walk gently, walk faithfully, and walk with your eyes lifted. You are being led in ways you cannot always measure, but the evidence is everywhere if you dare to notice. The sudden peace in your chest when you should be afraid. The unexpected kindness of a stranger. The message that arrives at the perfect time. The dream that lingers in your spirit. These are not random. They are signs. They are reminders that you are not alone. They are whispers that heaven is with you, directing you, carrying you, loving you. They are God's fingerprints upon your life. So rest, beloved, rest your weary heart in this truth. You are not drifting aimlessly. You are not forgotten in the crowd. You are the carefully chosen, the deeply loved, the divinely guided child of the Most High. Your life is not a puzzle of scattered pieces, it is a divine mosaic in progress, and when the last piece is set, the beauty will take your breath away. Until then, trust. Trust when the way is clear, and trust when it is hidden. Trust when the night is starless, and trust when the dawn breaks bright. Trust when you feel weak, and trust when you feel strong. Trust when blessings overflow, and trust when you are still waiting. And when miracles come wrapped in unexpected ways, smile and remember, this is not coincidence, it is God's perfect plan unfolding before your eyes. From where we watch, time does not march in a straight line as it does for you. It is not a rigid sequence of seconds and minutes, rising and falling like the ticking of the hands on your clocks. To us, time is a vast and shimmering tapestry, stretched out across eternity, woven with threads of light and shadow, joy and sorrow, beginnings and endings, each strand essential to the integrity of the whole. We see the beginning and the end in the same eternal moment. What you perceive as fragments, as tangled knots of random events, as interruptions and detours, we see as deliberate artistry, an exquisite pattern of breathtaking complexity and grace. You call them coincidences, those moments of unexpected alignment, of chance encounters, of doors closing only for another to open. You marvel at the odds, shake your head in disbelief, and then move on. But we see the stitches, we see the divine hand guiding the needle. We see the unseen threads tugging gently at your steps, redirecting you when you think you are lost, holding you steady when you think you are about to fall. It is not coincidence, it is not chaos. It is God's plan, meticulous and magnificent, carried out in love. Consider, for instance, the life of one soul, a woman named Clara. From her first breath we have watched her, wrapped in a spirit of immense potential, though she herself felt small and often unseen. Her heart was a vessel overflowing with kindness, and yet like many hearts upon the earth it was bruised by disappointments, overlooked by a world that often rewards noise over gentleness. She began to believe her gentleness path was a circle, leading nowhere, looping endlessly without meaning. She worked in a sterile office of glass and steel, her days measured not by joy or connection, but by the clicking of keyboards, the monotony of meetings, and the hollow hum of servers. With each passing year her light dimmed. She felt her essence eroding, her spirit stifled by an endless march of sameness. She would often look out from her office window at the sprawling city below, a sea of anonymous faces, each swallowed by their own burdens. And she would wonder if anyone truly saw her, if her existence rippled at all in the vast ocean of humanity. Her prayer was never shouted, never formalized into words spoken aloud. It was a whisper of the soul, a silent ache for meaning that even she could not name. And then came the day her world fractured, though she could not yet know it was a holy fracture, a divinely orchestrated breaking open. That morning began like any other, with the same dull routine, the same mechanical rhythm. Yet upon her desk lay a letter, its corporate language cold and sterile, a mask for a brutal fact. Her position no longer existed. Redundant. Such a word, clinical in tone, sharp in effect, redundant, unnecessary, without place. It echoed in her chest long after she had read it, reverberating in the silence of her apartment that afternoon as she sat alone, stunned. Her deepest fear had been confirmed. Not that she was merely without work, but that she was without worth. A cloak of despair, heavy and suffocating, settled upon her. In that moment of profound darkness she could not feel us, though we were closer to her than ever. We did not take away the sting, for pain is a sculptor of the soul, chiseling away illusions and reshaping the heart. But we held her in a quiet embrace, an unseen protection, ensuring that despair would not completely extinguish her flame of hope. This ending was not a punishment but a doorway, though her human eyes could not yet perceive the threshold. For a week she drifted, untethered, the hours indistinct. Then came what she would later call her first lucky break. The phone rang. On the line was an old acquaintance, a voice she had not heard in over a decade. "It's the strangest thing," the friend said, her voice filled with an energy she herself could not explain. "I was cleaning my attic and found our old college photo album. I just had to call." "How are you?" Clara, tentative and hesitant, confessed the truth of her job loss. In the pause that followed, we planted a seed of memory in the friend's heart. "Wait," she said slowly. "My husband's company is looking for a project manager. They need someone who understands creative people. It's a long shot, but your degree was in art history, wasn't it?" A long shot, she called it. A coincidence, Clara thought, but we knew it as a thread being gently pulled from the tapestry, gently pulled from the tapestry, leading her closer to her true design. Her degree in art history had long felt like a youthful indulgence, an impractical decision that had no bearing on daring on the corporate world she had been swallowed by. Yet here it was, suddenly relevant, suddenly valuable, suddenly a possibility. Clara sent her resume, not with enthusiasm, but with resignation, as one who has nothing left to lose. And soon she found herself walking toward an interview, in a part of the city she rarely visited. Following her phone's map, she took a wrong turn, finding herself on a narrow cobbled street she had never noticed before. Frustrated, certain she would now be late, she stopped to reorient herself. And that is when her eyes caught sight of something she might have overlooked on any other day. A small weathered building, its windows filled with the eyes of forgotten creatures, dogs, cats, small animals, each pressing silently against the glass as if reaching out for a soul who would see them. Above the door a faded hand-painted sign read, "Volunteers urgently needed." For a fleeting moment, Clara forgot her interview. Forgot her interview. Heart, long shuttered and guarded, felt an old, deep ache stir. A compassion that had been buried beneath years of practicality. She had always loved animals, but that part of her had been silenced in the sterile neatness of her city life. Shaken, she tore her eyes away, hurried forward, and made it to the interview just in time. She did not get the job. Another soul's path was meant to weave into that opportunity, another story set in motion. Clara's disappointment was sharp, bitter, like salt rubbed into an open wound. The brief flicker of hope she had felt was extinguished, and the world grew gray again. Yet as she walked home, she chose not to take the train. Her feet, heavy yet searching, carried her without conscious direction. And before she knew it, she stood once again on that cobbled street facing that small shelter. This time she did not pass by. She lingered, watching a volunteer stroke the trembling head of a three-legged dog, the tenderness, radiating between them, almost palpable. Something within her broke open. She walked inside. The smell of disinfectant and fur was sharp, but beneath it ran a current of unconditional love, raw and unfiltered. She began volunteering the very next day. The work was not glamorous, scrubbing cages, walking restless dogs, sitting in the quiet presence of shy cats, but it was holy in its simplicity. For the first time in years she did not feel redundant, she felt essential. These broken, abandoned creatures needed her kindness, the very essence of her soul that had never found a home in the corporate world. Here at last her light was not only welcome, it was necessary. She was making a ripple. She was answering her own silent prayer for meaning, though she could not yet see its full shape. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. With each act of service her confidence unfurled like a flower long pressed under a heavy book. She discovered she had a gift for calm organization, for creating order from chaos. She streamlined the shelter's intake process, crafted enrichment plans for restless animals, and began a small social media page to showcase their residents. She tapped into skills she had not known she possessed, skills that had been dormant beneath years of sterile routine. And slowly, quietly, her heart expanded. One afternoon, a man entered the shelter. His steps were slow, weighted by sorrow, his eyes carrying a familiar grief. Clara recognized it, for it mirrored her own. His beloved dog of 15 years had recently passed, and the silence in his home was unbearable. He was uncertain if he was ready to adopt again, but something had pulled him through those doors. We knew that pull, we placed it in his heart. His name was Samuel, a graphic designer whose own spirit was raw and tender with loss. That day he did not adopt a dog, but he noticed the simple flyers Clara had designed, unpolished yet heartfelt. You have a good eye, he told her gently, but with better tools, you could reach more people. And so he offered to help, free of charge, using his gifts to amplify the shelter's mission. Their collaboration was effortless, natural, as though it had been written in the fabric of time long before either of them arrived at that moment. They spent hours side by side, first at the shelter, then in coffee shops, discussing fonts and layouts, but also grief and hope, endings and beginnings. In Samuel, Clara found a mirror of her own journey. A soul, redirected by sorrow, finding new purpose in unexpected places. In Clara, Samuel found a kindred spirit, a woman of quiet strength whose compassion ran deep. And as their shared work blossomed, so too did something tender and profound between them. One evening, amidst the joyful chaos of barking dogs and mewing kittens, Samuel paused. Clara sat nearby with a puppy asleep in her lap, her face radiant with a puppy asleep in her lap, her face radiant with quiet contentment. "It's strange, isn't it?" he said, his voice thoughtful. "If my old boss hadn't downsized, I'd still be drowning in deadlines. I never would have had the time to come here, and you, if you hadn't lost your job." His words trailed off, leaving the silence to carry their weight. Clara looked around, the animals, the people, the man before her, and for the first time she saw her life not as a series of accidents, but as a symphony. She thought of the phone call from her friend, the wrong turn on the cobbled street, the job she didn't get. Each had seemed like a failure, a random twist of fate. But now she saw them aligned, each one a deliberate stitch in the fabric of her story. What once felt like unraveling was, in truth, weaving. What once felt like loss was preparation. Every closed door had led her to an open one she would never have found otherwise. Her eyes softened and she whispered, almost to herself, "It's not a coincidence, none of it was." And as those words left her lips, a light bloomed in her soul, an awakening to the divine orchestration of her journey. We, watching from beyond, saw the tapestry in its full glory. We saw the threads of her despair woven beside the golden strands of friendship. We saw the tangled knot of a wrong turn leading to the vibrant colors of purpose. We saw her heartbreak and Samuel's grief. Dark threads that, when entwined, formed a pattern of love and healing, far more beautiful than either could have imagined. It was all there, every stitch perfect, every thread deliberate, every color placed with infinite care. For in the divine design, there are no accidents, no wasted tears, no loose ends. There is only love, vast enough to orchestrate galaxies, yet intimate enough to guide a searching soul down a cobbled street, straight into the arms of her destiny.